Hello, my name's Faye. I'm the acupuncturist here at Aviva Acupuncture, and this video is about stress and energy. So, tall order, this video, my goal is to show you a way to permanently and systematically eliminate stress from your life. So, in terms of stress relief, we all know what to do. We all know to eat right, get exercise, sleep enough, go on walks, take responsibility and be early and prepared for our appointments and meetings, and talk about our problems with our friends and family. And these are all more or less ways to control the external environment. So my goal is to empower you to moment control the inner environment, to show you that you have a choice in every moment to feel no stress. And I know that this statement, that's a big statement, and it's setting me up for a challenge, but I'm excited to show you that it is possible, and it will make your life and everyone else in your life who interacts with you so much better. So before I started implementing these techniques, my life felt so crowded because I was always looking for ways to make more space, because although I'm not from there, I've always felt like a country girl, and I live in a big, crowded, dirty, noisy, messy city, which it's good because it's forced me to make these techniques. But anyways, so I've looked for ways to make more space. I wanted to move houses, go running. I always tried to escape the city during the weekends, basically all the things that we know to do to decrease stress. But it actually just served to make my life more crowded. And often we think of stress relief as a way to damage control what happens to us out there, meaning damage control after the stress has occurred. You know, like maybe getting a drink after work, or going to yoga class, or eating, sleeping, taking it easy after a hard day, doing things to make us feel better after the stress, but we don't really think of stress relief techniques to shift the way things are going while the stress itself is happening. So first I want to present to you an ideal, a possibility of existing, we can say, and then we'll talk about how to get there. So I had a great statistics teacher that it was so simple, but he blew my mind when he said it. He says, everything in nature is a bell curve, which is basically the basis of Chinese medicine. And there's a way, I heard it in a lecture from Noman Ali Khan, and I cannot find it, but I took the message, and it talks about there's a way of living where we exist, our mind stays in a flux between gratitude and patience and gratitude and patience. So when things are going our way, the way we imagine them, we're grateful. And when things kind of don't look the way that we plan them to, we're patient. And staying in between, living between those two states of mind not only preserves our energy, but it gives us energy. And if you've watched any of my other videos, we need energy to heal. And essentially, the science of health is basically just techniques of energy preservation. So the way we do that, the way we stay in that good place, and we don't let our energy and our states of mind and our emotions to go to any dark place outside of those two parameters, is the vanquishment of expectations and judgment. Okay, I know, that is a huge platitude and so cliche. And it seems like such an abstract ideal that people just talk about in yoga class. But I'm going to tell you that it's real, and it's possible, and it's actually very easy, because we are going to replace those things. We're going to replace judgment and expectations with something so much more rewarding and fulfilling and energizing. Spoiler alert, that thing is love. And I promise, this is not woo-woo. I'm going to show you mechanically and systematically exactly how to do that. And I also want you to understand why that's important. It's important to save your energy, and I'm going to show you how it saves your energy. And once you make that shift in your behavior, there's no looking back. And just to give you, before we go into the details of the process, just one little tidbit of hope and optimism. There's a quote that's kind of always pushed me along, and it says, "Transformation can happen in an instant." So, it's possible, okay? So, the transformation that we're looking for is the transformation of who is the driver and the pilot of our autopilot. So, in our life, we don't want to be a leaf at the mercy of the wind. We want to be more or less on autopilot, going towards our life's path, our mission. Autopilot doing our work, our pre-programmed work given to us by Spirit or God. And I'm just going to make a disclaimer here because I feel like I have to use the word God a lot. And what I ask of you is that when I say God, or if I say Spirit, I want you to only hear God as you know him or her. So if you have your own special name for God or Spirit or the motive force of the universe or the great architect, please hear that and insert that when I say the word God. And please do not worry about how anyone else sees or calls God. Don't worry about how I see or call God. Just worry about God as you know God. So we have this mission pre-programmed in us by our Creator, and we want to be on autopilot towards fulfilling that mission. And A Course in Miracles teaches that we can either be a host to God or a hostage to the ego. And just another way of saying that, it's the same thing, is we can either be a slave to God or a slave to our self-importance. And there is a formula of behavior that I want to present to you to show you how to always choose the path that brings you more energy and prevents stress. So this formula is so simple, and it seems like such a cliche, but hear me out and you'll see why it takes a couple deeper shifts of understanding to actually implement it. So the formula is this: meditation plus the golden rule. Okay? So the meditation, there's 3 different levels which it helps correct our autopilot, make sure our autopilot is on the right path. So during meditation, Spirit comes through. Meditation helps us clear our vessel so that during the meditation itself, we can receive guidance from God or Spirit. And in our daily life, when we need, we can hear, we're still enough that we can hear guidance. So the guidance either comes to us spontaneously, or when we are in a situation and we don't know how to fully be an instrument of God, we can ask. And Spirit will intervene and inform and shift and control our thoughts. Meditation also establishes for us love as a baseline feeling for our body and for our mind. And meditation also strengthens our stillness muscle. So just like working out at a gym, you exercise your muscles to the point of fatigue, and you're not working out to be strong during the actual exercise. You're working out to be strong outside. So the same thing is with meditation. Yes, it's so nice to slow down and be still during the meditation itself, But essentially, the benefits that you receive from being still and quiet during meditation are to be used outside. So I don't know. Such a big part of my life, I don't know how I lived without meditation. I don't know how anyone does. But my life always just seemed to be going so fast that I would do or say things that almost seemed like out of my control. And truly, I was out of control. But then it's like this miraculous shift when you start to meditate. It's almost like you're still living the same life. There's still a 24-hour clock, but the moment to moment doesn't speed by in a way that you have no control over it. So meditation allows you to be in the moment and have full command over your faculties in that moment. So that's how meditation helps in that way. And the golden rule. What WW blank D. So for Christians, the filter on behavior would be, what would Jesus do? And the golden rule is this. In any interaction, we are either an instrument of blessing or an instrument of blame. Choose love automatically. There is no neutrality. And so meditation gives us a conduit for spirit to inform our thoughts and actions. The golden rule puts a filter on our behavior to make sure that we are only acting as an instrument of blessing, an extension of love to other people. And it completely eliminates the option of being an instrument of blame. So this autopilot frees up our energy so that mentally we don't have to consciously choose what the best course of action is. And if we don't act like this, we become totally entangled in our own mess and a slave to our self-importance. So our thoughts are informed by God, and our behavior is automatically set to being an instrument of blessing, and we're automatically choosing love. And if we don't know how to be an instrument of blessing, if we haven't gotten our automatic feedback from Spirit, then we practice the golden rule part 2. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Doesn't that make things so much simpler? So just that freedom to not react, the freedom of choice, to choose Spirit, to choose God instead of ego, is such a huge relief. And in the same vein, the same way that we're choosing freedom, it actually takes away the stress of choosing. We actually don't have the option of acting not the way God would have us act in that moment. So when people ask me how to protect my energy, what I have to say is that love is the most energizing force, and it's the ultimate deflection shield. So when you exude love to somebody, they immediately respond with cooperation and willingness to help you, because you interacting with them is helping them. If you don't come from that place, automatically your interaction implies expectations at a minimum and judgment at worst, to which they respond. So their ego has to, by definition, step up to the plate to fulfill whatever you expect from them. And usually they want to rebel, because that's just the nature of, if I feel you don't like me and you expect me to do something or say something, naturally I'm going to want to do the opposite. That's just the nature of being adversarial to somebody and expecting things from somebody. And people, by definition, their ego has to meet judgment with defense, because if I feel you're judging me, my ego has to. It's just a reaction. Come back and defend. No, I'm actually this way. I actually did it right this way and this way. So in every interaction with people, there's no neutrality. We are either going to impart an expectation or judgment, or love and acceptance. Extending love and acceptance towards people in our thoughts, actions, and energy is energy giving and saving. it immediately ensures us compliance and cooperation from the other person, because no matter what, by behaving in that way, you automatically become that person's advocate, and no one is going to bite the hand that feeds. In no way does that mean that you have to agree with what they're doing or agree with what they're saying. And it doesn't mean you have to do anything at all or say anything. Maybe that person just needs a silent witness or observer to their suffering with no expectations. But you're there but you just listen. But ultimately, you're there to witness them as their true self, which, if they are presenting themselves to you in a spirit of conflict or being adversarial, then they at that moment are not conscious and embodying their true self, and you do not feed and support that false self. So, when you're interacting with them, instead of hearing threats to your self-importance and needs, hear how they are asking you to help them to readjust who they really are to who they really are. So help them. They've stepped out, help them readjust, get back to being the person that they should be, that they really are. So instead of focusing on how can I be heard, how can my needs be met, how can I assert myself, get my way, you're working with them. You're scheming with them subconsciously. How can I help, support, and make you feel loved? And you're having this secret meeting with them, because we all communicate on a nonverbal level. You're meeting with them. Your mind and your body, your internal and your external, you are bringing forth your best self. And you are calling to that meeting that person's best self. That person as God sees them. That person as God intended them. And you're meeting with them and you're encouraging. The point of interacting with people is to encourage each other to become the best that we can be, to become as God intended, and to move closer to our mission, right? So when you're talking to somebody, that should be in your subconscious. You should be picking apart, what does this person need from me? How can I extend love to them and help them feel that love and get what they need in a way that's loving to the whole picture, right? So people pick up on your ulterior motives, and when your motive shifts away from mentally trying to make sure that in dealing with them your needs are not getting trampled on, but stems from the inner knowledge that both parties can get what they need, get both of their needs met, and that you are accepting the responsibility to help facilitate that process, people will do almost anything to cooperate with you. When you treat people with unconditional love, there are no loose ends anymore. They're all tied up because there's no residual wondering if you did your best, worrying about how the other person felt, because every interaction is a closed case. It's complete. You brought them your absolute best, and then you're done. You brought forth your highest self, and in doing so, you encourage them to move towards their highest self. And if you didn't, nobody's perfect. But if you didn't bring forth your best self, then that's just another tool in your toolbox to show you how you can change for next time, how you can not get tangled up energetically with anyone else again. Because when you interact with people and you shoot them your love, unconditional love and acceptance, there's no entanglement, But if you do get tangled up with somebody because you're not being unconditionally loving and accepting, meaning that you have this internal dialogue that is a result from not treating people with unconditional love and acceptance, next time you learned, it's the art of communication. You learned how to, it's just another tool in your toolbox. So it's like when you love someone unconditionally and you accept them unconditionally, they have nothing to prove. They are just there to help and be helped. But when you meet someone and it's almost like automatically, if you're not going to that person with unconditional love and unconditional acceptance, there's an expectation on the interaction. And that is an entanglement. So in normal interactions, we have expectations. How they should treat us, how they should act, how they should think about us, and judgments about those expectations, meaning judgments on the outcomes of those expectations. So expectations are energetically expensive because they are, by definition, loose ends. They require action on the other part, on the part of the other party, and to what extent their behavior meets our expectations determines our emotions about that interaction. So some emotions are energizing, like if they fulfill our expectations, we're happy and optimistic, but some are very draining and take our energy. So if they don't meet our expectations, we may feel disappointed, angry, sad, sorry for ourselves, resentful, bitter, any array of energy-sucking feeling. So by putting expectations on someone or an interaction, we are putting our energy on the line, and it's pretty much a 50-50 chance if we're going to win. More often than not, we lose energy through expectations. So judgments drain our energy in the same way expectations do, because to be maintained, judgments require a stream of inner dialogue to support them. So talking to yourself why you're right, why the person's wrong, why they shouldn't be that way, why they shouldn't have said that, how you are, how upset you are that you don't see them that way, that they don't see you that way, and so on. So judgments and expectations by definition take our energy. Extending unconditional love and acceptance to all people in every interaction is the most potent deflector that we can possibly have to make sure that we only have energy coming in and absolutely nothing going out. We don't have to sit and talk to ourselves about why that person does or doesn't deserve our love or judgment. We don't have to worry about if they're going to do or say as we want them to do or say. It's win-win. It's mutually empowering. You're giving that person the freedom of choice, and you're giving yourself the freedom of choice to feel good regardless of what that person does or says. So it's impossible to just, I think the missing link are two things. It's impossible to give up expectations and judgments without a replacement. And I think that's what people do. I think people think, I guess when we're on our spiritual path, we know that we can't expect things from people and we can't judge people, but we think we can be neutral. And we also think that we can extend love and acceptance towards a person until a certain point, until they do something. And when they do something, it's always it's not the sin, but the transgression is always against our self-importance. So unconditional love is not actually unconditional until you totally get rid of self-importance, and until you make unconditional love actually unconditional, an actual policy of behavior towards everyone, no matter what. So the key to vanquishing expectations and judgments, and the key to saving all of our energy and making sure that we don't feel stress, is the lifelong commitment to trimming our self-importance. Because that's where all the blocks to energizing love come from, meaning that's where all judgments and expectations come from. So self-importance is so expensive mentally because it puts out a constant stream of expectations for yourself to be, and also requires that all the people in your world treat you according to your imagined self-importance. Because when we know that when people don't, the ego flares up like a velociraptor, which is so crazy to expect and require all the residents of your world to think of you in a certain way and to treat you accordingly to the way you imagine yourself to be. Most spiritual traditions, most religions require the putting down of the self and the pursuit of God instead. So, and there's so much validity to this in our culture. We so treasure and value inflating the ego and just wanting to, wanting to believe that we are A, B, and C, and our love and our relationships are so conditional because they go to the point where we will extend our love and our friendship and our familyship until the point where somebody doesn't believe that we're A, B, and C that we believe, and then we just break up with them or cut them out. And that's crazy. That's for, if you can see it logically, it's an endless cycle of suffering. That's why people have the same issues over and over and over again throughout their life, because they don't know how to break the cycle. And breaking the cycle is getting rid of expectations and judgments and replacing it with unconditional love. So in A Course in Miracles, it teaches that the ego doesn't tell you you did something wrong. It tells you you are wrong, which is why in life it's so easy to walk through feeling so broken. So if we do something wrong, the path to course correcting is obviously taking full responsibility for our part and correcting the future. Feelings of guilt and shame are not actually trimming our self-importance. It's not actually being egoless. It instead equips you with all the excuses necessary to prevent you from being your best self, which requires that you course correct in your life. Your self-importance prevents you from taking responsibility for your actions, and it requires an endless repetition of why you're right or why you're wrong, and it prevents you from course correcting, taking responsibility for and learning from your mistakes and altering future behavior. Your self-importance hates to admit to mistake. And self-importance, if you want to save energy, self-importance is the number one thing that we have to constantly work at to chop down, because it truly is the root of all human suffering, and it's the root of all evil. And if you don't apply the filter of unconditional love and acceptance to all of your behavior and make spirit your autopilot through prayer and meditation, all of your mental faculties are directed towards scheming how to assert your self-importance, meaning you're ruminating over the past or future tripping, instead of freed up mentally and energetically to do the things that require this extra energy, which means healing, which means your life's work, your mission. We don't have that much energy, and we need to reclaim all the energy we spent tangled up with interactions with people. So just to recap, self-importance, judgments, expectations, that is how we get entangled with people. That's how we give other people our energy. That's how we lose energy. It's not at all saying it's anyone's fault. It's our own fault. It's our own self-importance. But the way to keep your energy, the way to deflect anything that can take our energy and make us feel stressed out is to just have an automatic, unconditional love and acceptance, no matter what. That's just your autopilot, and that's your automatic default response. And when you meditate, life is not going so fast that you don't have control, that you don't have the choice. So the final stage, like the most evolved stage, is ultimately we want to interact with people that challenge our self-importance. So in the teachings of Don Juan in Carlos Castaneda's books, he calls them petty tyrants, that we should seek out petty tyrants. Because in dealing with petty tyrants, it helps us chop down our self-importance. Because the more in life, the more we have to deal with control and discipline and patience and forbearance with people, the stronger we become. So we don't just want to be mindlessly pleasure-seeking. We want to become stronger. We want to use the world to temper our spirit and gain energy. And the more like in Chinese medicine, the more virtue you have, the more energy you have, the longer your life is, the stronger your will is. So we use petty tyrants to practice patience and forbearance and control and discipline. And also petty tyrants help us deflate our egos. Because the more we self-define, the more we say, I am this way and this way and that way and that way, and therefore I should have this person should treat me that way, or think of me this way, the less freedom, fluidity, flexibility, and power we have. And the more we block out spontaneous information from spirit, or guidance, or help from other people or spirit, because we're so caught up in maintaining our image of ourselves. It totally interferes with real knowledge and freedom. So in the end, we welcome people and anything else that helps us chop down our ego, because that is the true key to ultimate freedom and happiness. So in the end, the energy we accrue from being host to these kinds of interactions energizes us to deal with the stresses of daily life. And it gives us a forgiveness buffer when we do mess up, and we know that making mistakes in our daily life is a huge source of stress. But when it's so clear that our MO in this world is to help and be helped, to love and be loved, people will naturally give you a bigger buffer of forgiveness. When you just make mindless mistakes, which happens so much less if you practice meditation. So, and then it ensures that when you need help, it's there. We know that having these kind of loving interactions makes you a vessel of empowering other people, and we always leave feeling empowered ourselves. So this formula of behavior is directly energizing, and it's such a security blanket, and it's a source of insurance that the world has your back. And the bottom line is, Marie Forleo is so great. She had someone on her show, and he said, never worry alone, which I love that, because that is stored, that's a waste of energy. You need that energy. So you worry out loud to your friends and family that are there to support you. Because if you can't solve it, there is someone who can. Because by definition, this is Marie Forleo's biggest thing. She says everything's figure-outable. So if you don't have the answer, if you can't get the answer from spirit, someone out there has the answer. So the world is there to help you. The world is not the enemy. The world is a place where you go out there and you just machine gun love and acceptance to people. No matter what. It has to be unconditional. It's so incredible. I don't want to share too much personal information, but it's so incredible the transformation that happens in the presence of somebody that's not judging you, in the presence of somebody that loves you and accepts you unconditionally. It's almost like mind control. So just to share a story, before I practiced this, I worked at a methadone clinic, and there's a certain population there who haven't learned coping mechanisms or just normal behavior, right? So they act any which way. And then when I projected onto them my expectations of acting normally, it was such a drain of energy that immediately they responded the way that we know people respond when you expect something from them. And then even worse, when I judge them, oh my gosh, it so backfires, you know? So here I am a year later. I went back to that nursing job, and I saw it as a beautiful opportunity to see if my newfound tactics and philosophy only apply in the comfort of my own office, where like home court advantage, I control the environment, or if it's an all-purpose salve for every situation. And so I'm there, I dose 100 patients a day, and where the week before I started, there were like 2 fist fights a day and just so much hostility and combativeness. But I brought to that table, no matter what, Faye, you have to be an instrument of blessing. You cannot be an instrument of blame. Otherwise, what's the point? Choose love unconditionally, choose love automatically. Just choose love, choose love. And it was so crazy, the change. You know, and I'm not here at all to pat myself on the back. No way. I just want to give you a concrete example so that you know I'm not here in my office, in my comfortable, beautiful office, you know, applying these abstract principles. I want you to know that I'm out there in the world, you know, treating 100 people a day, people that are going through withdrawal, people that are angry and suffering. But when I apply these principles, the shift is so real and dramatic. And it's like, everyone wants to help you because they feel that you are just scheming to help them. You know, that you're just, all of your focus is there to help them. Nobody can fight you when you're in that mentality. So even if someone comes to you being confrontational, your nonverbal attitude is, I'm here to help. Whatever this behavior that you're exhibiting is just a side effect of you deviating from your true loving self. And your mission and my mission is to get us both back to that true loving self. When you present that to the world, when you treat people in that manner, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how energizing it is, how empowering it is for you and for that person. And it changes everything. So what's the takeaway? So that was all a wordy way of saying, here's the bottom line. If you want to eliminate stress from your life and have control over it, and not be a leaf at the mercy of the wind, in any interaction, you can be an instrument of blessing or an instrument of blame. Always choose love. And you have to believe that there's always a way to extend love while getting your needs met. And you will never, on the flip side, have your needs met if you don't extend love. So I hope this video helps. I find it to be the cure-all for stress, because dealing with people in large numbers or small numbers, one-on-one or in a big group, in this way is so energizing and so empowering that it kind of makes it impossible to feel stress. So I hope this serves as a cure-all for stress. Okay, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your patience. I know it's a long video. Thank you.